Right. So what we discussed in the previous session about the SDLC part, because STLC part, software testing life cycle. What are the different stages will be there in software testing is what we have discussed. And today we are going to discuss about what are the different type of architectures will be there for any project, because this is nothing to do with the type of application we are doing, but architectures plays a vital and important role in working on the project, because there are different type of applications we normally use, like client server applications, standalone applications, client server applications, web applications, enterprise applications, cloud applications, right? So different applications we use it. So in today's video, today's session, I'm going to discuss about what are the different architectures will be there in the project whenever we are working on. Normally, the first one is called single tier architecture. Single tier architecture means the example for single tier architecture I will tell you, which is called Excel. You might have heard about Excel, right? Microsoft Excel. Means normally any application you see, there are three layers. For any application, you will be having three different layers. Let me write down here. Any application consists of three layers. Application or a project, whatever it is. Three layers. The first layer is called presentation layer. Second, business or logic layer. And the third one is data layer. Okay, so these are the three different layers we can see. One is presentation layer. Second is business or logic layer. The third one is data layer. Presentation layer, this is what? That user interface, whatever you can see on the screen, right? So whatever that on the screen you can see, that's what we call it as UI. UI stands for user interfaces, right? That's what generally presentation layer stands for. So that is needed, because when you are working on the application, that itself has to be shown on the screen, right? So this is where generally we call it as presentation layer stands for. So after presentation layer, second is business and logic layer. Business and logic layer means whatever the code we develop, that is where generally business or logic layer stands for. So for example, you have given 1 plus 2, right? On the screen, on UI, on the presentation layer, you have given 1 plus 2 and you have pressed the enter button. What is the result you get? You get a result called 3, right? So 1 plus 2 equal to 3. Plus is a sign which is for addition of two numbers. Now, how system has identified this? Because there is a program or there is a logic which has to be provided by a developer by giving some instructions to the system. Okay, so 1 plus 2 equal to 3. So addition of two numbers. This is not addition of 1 plus 2. Addition of any number. It can be 300 plus 500 also. Addition of two numbers, there must be some result. So there is a logic which has to be implemented, by development team for sure. This is what generally business or logic layer stands for. See, there is a logic we are writing in between, where this is in the form of programming we are writing. So to whom it is? This is to instruct the development team. Because development team wants to write a program, system has to understand this language. What kind of language it was? This is where generally we call it as programming language. So using a programming language which can be understandable to the system, addition of two numbers was written by a developer. This is where generally it happens in the business or logic layer, application layer or business or logic layer is what we call it as. This is where generally all this coding and all everything comes under this category. Whatever the presentation layer means, preparing HTML forms, etc. All these are comes under presentation layer. The third one is data layer. Data layer means whatever the database we are creating. So either irrespective of the database, it can be, right? It can be Oracle, it can be SQL Server. It can be of anything, whatever the data we are storing. Because for example, there are hundreds and thousands of data of the customer, lakhs of data will be available. There must be a data which has to be loaded, and from that we have to extract whenever wherever it is needed for the report generation, etc. This is where generally data layer come into picture. Means whatever the databases we create for any application. So all these things are comes under data layer. Is this your following or not? Everyone, Lakshmi, Sirisha, Muhammad.
Yes.
Okay. Right. So all these three layers will be developed on a single platform. That's what we call it as single tier architecture or one tier architecture. The best example you can see is called Excel. Have you ever seen Excel? If you want to write any calculations or anything, have you seen anywhere that we do it in a separate manner? No. Right. So whatever the calculations we do, whatever the number we will be updating, whatever the columns we create, at the same time, whatever the, if you want to create any bar charts, pie charts and all, everything can be seen on the single screen itself. On the same screen, you can see everything, right? So business layer, logic layer, data layer, everything you can see it on the screen, right? So for example, you do any calculations, all these calculations you are doing on the single screen. So three different layers developing on a single platform. That's what we call it as single tier architecture. This is one type of application which normally we have. This is point number one. After that, so after that, the second was two-tier architecture, right? So two-tier architecture. Two-tier architecture means there will be a database as separate. Database server will be located somewhere within the on-premise, wherein we are accessing the database from different client systems. So for example, an organization is using an application, for example, a banking application or something, some old legacy application, I mean to say. So there will be a database which will be server in database, which will be in the server itself, that will be stored somewhere, that will be there in the premise itself. There are different client systems uses by an employees who is working in the organization. So where they are accessing the data, they are accessing their data of these client systems and all using a LAN connection. LAN stands for local area network. Through local area network, what they are doing, they're accessing the database. Provided database server access has to be there for these people, which will be taken care of by an admin team. So they're accessing the data and they're using it accordingly, right? So this is where generally two-tier architecture come into picture, right? So this is single-tier architecture. Second is two-tier architecture. So these two-tier architectures are also called as client-server applications. The kind of applications, whatever are we talking about, this is where generally we call it as client-server applications. Whatever the client-server applications we use, like for example, technically I can speak. I can say, like for example, whenever we are using Java, so we use servlets, JSPs, right? So there are different technologies using those. So two-tier applications are something comes under that category, client server applications, etc. All that. Now, Three-tier architecture. Three-tier architecture means there are three different layers developed on the three different platforms. Presentation layer platform is separate. Application tier or business or application layer architecture is different. Data layer is different. For example, you are accessing an Amazon or Flipkart portal and you are buying goods, right? Being a customer, you don't know where the actual server is, right? So you don't require. What is that you do? Simply using an URL connection, wherein you are accessing the database where whatever the products which are they are selling online. So the products list you can see being a customer. And whatever the products you want, you can select it, you can put it on the cart, and you can calculate, you can see the price, including taxes, all that, and you can pay this online. So you get a confirmation message against to the payment, what is that you have made. Upon the instructions what they have given, either it can be 3 working days or 4 working days, business working days, whatever it is. So they will submit you the application. Am I right? Or they'll send you the goods to you. So database and as well as server was located somewhere, and you are accessing this from somewhere. This is where generally we call it as three-layer architecture or three-tier architecture, we call it as. So presentation layer will be as separate, application layer will be as separate, data layer will be as separate. This is where generally we call it as three-tier architecture. Whatever the web applications are we developing, all these things are comes under this category. So these are the different type of applications available for the field of IT. Single tier architecture, standalone applications, client server applications is called two-tier architecture. Three-tier architecture, which is what web applications, all these things are comes under picture. Nowadays, cloud applications. Cloud applications means there will be a what I can say, there will be a server as separate, cloud server will be as separate. Cloud service providers, something like Amazon, AWS or Windows Azure, all that. So generally these cloud service providers will provide three services for the customers. So one is IaaS, stands for infrastructure as a service. For example, if you want to have an infrastructure to develop the application, you don't require to maintain the infrastructure. You don't need to buy even, because even buying itself is an expensive thing. At the same time, you have to maintain that. So for that, you require some manpower to do that. So without having that expenses, because not everybody are capable enough to spend in the infrastructure. So what is that they require? They require someone who can take care of it. This is where generally cloud service providers come into picture. The advantage in cloud service provider is whatever the related infrastructure for you to develop the application, that complete infrastructure will be taken care of by the customer itself. They will take care of everything by the cloud service provider itself. This is what infrastructure as a service, IaaS. Next, the second one, PaaS, PaaS, which is called platform as a service. Just now I have told you. If you want to develop an application, either it can be single tier or two tier and three tier application and all, there are three different platforms we have to create. If you take three tier application, so presentation layer platform is separate, application layer platform is separate, data layer platform is separate. That's how generally this has been categorized. So this categorization generally we don't do. Usually this is all something comes under what we call presentation layer kind of, right? So this is all comes under that. So this is where generally the platform we are creating. So this is where generally PaaS comes into picture, platform as a service. So cloud service providers will create a platform where you can develop your application. You don't need to maintain the infrastructure. You don't need to maintain the platform. Everything will be taken care of by the cloud service provider. So that pay-per-use kind of, whatever you are using, you have to pay for that, right? That's only the case. Next is the third one is software as a service. Means to develop the application, there is a software required. Normally for big companies, okay, software licenses and all everything they will buy. But how about the startups and as well as small companies? Because they doesn't have that much financial uh, support to gather it, right? So to gather all that and all, so they don't have it. So what generally they do now? So for that, what they want some what we can they will provide some software services to the customer. You don't need to buy the licenses, etc. So simply use their software, develop the application, and put it on the cloud environment. So even this cloud environment will also be taken care of by the customer itself. You don't need to worry about that. So cloud service providers will take care of everything. So that people who are developing the application and who are using the application can focus more on the quality rather than, because infrastructure cost, for that you have to invest on manpower, you have to invest on money. At the same time, you need to build the platform. So for that, you require some essence of it. At the same time, if you want to develop the application and all, you require some database, you require some third-party applications, you require a programming language to do that, right? So you may require some user interface pages to work on it, right? So a lot of technicalities, lot of software services, both hardware and software is needed. So in order to get rid of it, what is that we do? Like software as a service can also be provided. So these are all we call it as cloud applications. Nowadays, slowly, I don't say every application, but majority of the applications, whoever wish to reduce the operational cost are moving towards cloud applications. So these are the different applications or the projects which generally are available in the field of IT nowadays. Single tier architecture, two tier, those days have gone. In the beginning days it was, but and whenever I'm explaining about the architecture and all, it is important for me to explain. Hence, I have explained you the basics also, right? Because basics also important. It's not only the advanced levels of cloud applications, all that. What was earlier? What kind of applications earlier we used to? That knowledge should be there. The reason I have explained all these things to you, right? So, but single tier architecture, two tier, no, we are not using now because those days have gone. Now, of course, three tier architecture is there. Three tier architecture is there. Three tier architecture for some projects we are working on. At the same time, even cloud applications nowadays we are working on. But when it comes to this architecture and all, first of all, you need to understand the business architecture. If you remember in the beginning session, if I am not wrong, I have explained about business architecture for sure. Because being a BA, we must able in a position to understand the business architecture for sure. So this is where generally business architecture come into picture. You can see here. This, if I remember, I'm not sure. If I remember, I have explained this in the beginning of our session. But anyway, let me explain again to you, right? So this is where generally this business architecture come into picture. Of course, there are different types of tools we use, like TOGAF, right? So there are different frameworks we have, like Jacksman framework, TOGAF framework, right? Different frameworks we use it. So of course, technically speaking, Jackman framework or else the open group framework, which is called TOGAF and all, everything will be used. So that being a business analyst, we don't get into developing frameworks, all that, right? So technical people will take care of. But architecture, being a BA, we should know from the business architecture point of view. Any application. Because let's say that we are developing an online application, online loan management system, right? That's what the example we have taken. So whenever we want to develop a loan management system for any of the customer, what is that we have to do? First of all, we have to understand the structure of the organization structure you want. So what was the organization structure? First of all, loan management system is being used for whom? This is used for the banks and financial institutions, right? So we need to have a study over these things. First, we need to have a study Yeah. So first of all, we need to study over the customer, partners, and competitors, right? So who is our customer, and who are the customers, and as well as partners and competitors of the customer, that we have to know. So that in the line of business I'm talking about. Next, second point, what are the vision, strategies, and tactics your customer is playing to run their business? Because every organization, in the beginning also I told you, there are some goal, vision, mission, objectives, right? So strategies, tactics, all these things will be there, so which is essentially needed, right? So this is where generally this vision, strategies, tactics, all these things comes into picture. So knowledge over this from the organization point of view, your customer point of view, you must be good with. Next was capabilities, right? So what are the capabilities customer is having? This capability I'm talking about from the business capability. So what business capability customer has, that we have to understand. This is what generally we call it as capabilities stands for. Next, policies, rules, and regulations. What are the different policies, rules, and regulations, procedures do we require to follow? That we have to understand, right? So there are different policies we have, that there are different rules and regulations, procedures of the organization to run with. So these policies, rules, and regulations, all these things must be known to us well in advance. Next, we must be knowing about the organization, right? So what kind of organization this customer belongs to, right? So assume that they were from the financial and banking related organization it was, and the kind of information relating to that. And what products and services, what customers do, right? So your bank will receive deposits from the customers. Against to that, they will provide interest on that. At the same time, they will issue loans. Or else if they're in the financial services domain, they do the portfolio management services, etc. All that. Means what kind of products and services your organization or your client usually provides, that we have to know. This is where generally products and services we know, so that we will be knowing about. So whenever we know about the products and services, we will be knowing about the applications in detail. The reason why loan management system is identified. Next, value streaming, right? So how they are going to improve the value for the organization structure. So that we must be knowing with, right? So this is where generally value streams are coming to picture. Next, initiatives and projects. What are the other initiatives and projects? Because let's say loan management system is one kind of to manage the loan. Is it the only application they use? Is it the only initiative or the project they work on the organization? No, right? So there can be CRM application to manage customer relationships. There may be a payroll management system to manage employee payrolls. It can be something relating to, it can be a core banking application to manage core banking services of the customer. So all these things are comes under these initiatives and projects, etc. This is all comes under this category. Next, what are the metrics and measurements are they using, right? So because to make their organization more effective, are they following any metrics and measurements, so that to see the progress of the work, right? So are they following any tools? What are the different tools and techniques they are using, right? So that sort of understanding and knowledge is required. Last but not least, what are the decisions and the events? What is that we do? So all these things, this is all something comes under the business architecture, whatever you can see over here. So all these things are comes under business architecture, we call it as. So knowledge over business architecture is also, because when we are developing an application, being a business analyst, it's not only about the providing solution, but understanding over the business architecture and all everything is something which a business analyst nowadays it's becoming mandatory. Earlier it was not the case. Earlier there was no much importance for the role of BA. Importance for architecture is there, but not for the role of a BA. Because nowadays evaluation of the industry has moved into such a way where we need to have a knowledge over the organization level also, not only solution, because rate of investment is the primary motive. A customer is investing some X amount of money, return of investment must be provided. So how return of investment we provide? When we are providing the solution which can rightly meet the strategies and objectives of the business, then only that project has a value. Let's say you're developing a loan management system, actually should solve the purpose of the customer. Then only that loan management system has a advantage. Otherwise, there is no advantage of doing that. This is where generally this business architectures and all everything, understanding over the business architectures, all these are becoming important for any BA to perform it. Understood? Clear, everyone? Is it clear or not? Kiran, Lakshmi,
Yes.
Mohammed, Sirisha. Right. So this is all about the applications. What are the different types of applications do we have? Followed by that, what are the different what we call different layers of the architecture and all, and how important the business architecture is all about. So this is all about the different layers of the application as well as business architectures and all. And tomorrow I'm going to discuss about the database topic, right? So what is database, right? So RDBMS, DBMS, and some basics over SQL, right? So that I'm going to discuss tomorrow. And finally, after that, I'll review the session again, from the beginning to end, right? So being a BA, I'll just review that one more time, and then we will close it. Okay, clear, Kiran, Lakshmi, Mohammed, and Sirisha. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right, so this is all for today, and tomorrow we'll meet and we discuss about the database topics. Followed by this, again, I'll just repeat what we did from the beginning, right? So I'll give you a head note from the beginning itself, so that if you have any questions, you can ask me further, then I will close it. Okay? Okay then. Is it clear?
Okay, thank you.
Clear to everyone or not? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. We'll meet tomorrow again. We have session.
Okay, thank you.
Please do remember, as I mentioned earlier. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.